Welcome to the Outdoor Biz Podcast, your home for inspiring conversations with outdoor insiders. Each week, author, speaker, adventurer, and outdoor industry veteran Rick Saez talks in-depth with iconic brand founders, sales and marketing pros, product designers, and industry rising stars. Listen in when Rick's guests offer actionable advice to land your ideal industry gig and grow your outdoor career. Catch us again when the conversation shifts to the hottest outdoor products, destinations, and the latest industry insights. And now, here's Rick.
Welcome to episode 294 of the Outdoor Biz Podcast with Jack Wolfskin US General Manager Diana Seung. We talk about how Diana got into the outdoor biz, how a socio-cultural anthropology major gets into retail, merchandising, e-commerce, and plenty more. Brought to you this month by Grammarly. If you write as much as I do, it's nice to have a little backup with spelling and grammar, and I love Grammarly. Their instant grammar check corrects all grammar errors and enhances your writing. Visit ricksays.com/grammarcheck and get signed up today. You can thank me later. That's ricksays.com/grammarcheck. Hey, Diana. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rick. Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's good to be here in Park City for the Big Gear Show, and thanks for making time to get me off the show and out of the heat and come in and talk to you.
Of course, and you actually got really great weather. It's been pouring rain up until the show a few days ago.
That's what I heard.
Yeah,
that's what I heard.
We lucked out.
Perfect. We'll take it, yeah. So I always start off with how people got introduced to the outdoors. How were you introduced to the outdoors?
A very unexpected call from a recruiter. So I had a recruiter call me and say, I have this amazing opportunity with Backcountry.com. And I misheard her. I was like, Backcountry? Like a bat? I was like, what's Backcountry? I've never even heard of this company. She's like, oh, and they're in Utah. I'm like, oh, no way in hell. I was living in New York City at the time.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to move to Utah of all places. Like, I'm a city girl. I lived in New York City, San Francisco, like through and through. She's like, why don't you just talk to them? And just have a conversation, more informal, just learn about it. Okay. I'm like, I'll be open-minded. I'll speak to them. Have a call with them. At that point, I realized it's Backcountry.
You knew, you straightened that out.
Yeah, Backcountry was a new term for me, too. That's how foreign the outdoor world was
Makes
to me.
sense. Okay, yeah.
And so finally put two and two together. I'm like, I got it. And had a conversation. And crazy enough, I actually had a personal trip planned to go out and come out to Park City.
Huh.
A girlfriend of mine had just moved out here, and I was coming out to visit her. So I mentioned to them, I was like, it's so funny that I'm getting this call and I'm speaking to you all because Park City's never been on my radar.
Right.
And my girlfriend just moved out there. I'm headed out there in 3 weeks to visit her. And they're like, when you're in town, why don't you just swing in? You know, check out the offices, get to know us. We'll, tell you a little bit more about the opportunity. I'm like, sure, why not?
Yeah.
That quickly transpired into being a all day long, 6-person interview back to back with presentation. And then before I knew it, I was flying out here again several weeks later for another interview and got the offer. And I thought, gosh, do I really want to move out to Utah and do something totally different in the outdoor industry?
Yeah.
And at that point, spent 7 years in children's wear. Prior to that, I was in fashion. And I thought, heck, why not? Let's try something different.
Yeah.
This could be a really cool experience. And so I packed my bags and moved out here. And I thought to myself, I hate it. I can move back.
It's true.
But I might like it. And 5 years later, here I am, still in the outdoor industry.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So when you got the call and you figured out it was Backcountry, what kind of research did you do?
I looked up Backcountry, and I was like, there's no Backcountry. I don't know what this woman's talking about. And she finally sent me the job description. I was like, oh, Backcountry.
Right.
And then realized this is a huge retailer online. Yeah. They're legit, great branding, great product. I like carrying all the main outdoor brands.
All the cool stuff.
All the cool stuff. But a lot of those brands were new to me. For instance, I had never heard of Arc'teryx. I couldn't even pronounce it. I'm like, I'm going for this interview and talking to these people. I don't even have to pronounce the names of these brands.
That might have been a feather in your cap, though.
They were looking for someone with a different perspective.
Yep.
I clearly came with that. And it was a steep learning curve to just not only understand the industry and the different brands, but just the backcountry model. And it was a great experience.
Had you ever been camping or anything?
No.
Nothing.
I went camping for the first... Skiing I did grow up skiing as a child, but hadn't been skiing since I was, maybe 10.
Yeah, okay.
And so got back into it as an adult out here.
Right.
But had camped for the first time a couple months into moving out here.
Wow.
So that was a great experience.
And was that with coworkers?
That was with coworkers.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah. We got to get this girl outside.
Yeah, they're like, "You've never been camping?" I'm like, "Well, no." I'm like, "What? Like, you really sleep in a camp or in a tent for how many days? Is there a bathroom?" Totally foreign to me.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I definitely got the full immersion into.
And they probably liked your digital experience and your buying experience and those kind of things is probably what they were after.
Yeah, they definitely liked that, and they were looking for someone with some, deeper merchandising experience.
Yeah.
At that point, the company was looking for someone to come in and help organize the team and implement some processes and some just a bit more rigor around how they looked at the business and measured the business, and that was my
professional
background.
merchandising. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
and
so. How does a socio-cultural anthropology major, I don't think I've ever said that before, major get into retail merchandising and e-commerce, even what you were doing before you came to Backcountry? How'd that happen?
So college for me was about getting exposure to things that I would probably never have the opportunity to learn again. So I took that opportunity just to take courses that were interesting. I was like, let me just have some fun here.
Yeah.
And so majored in socioculture and anthropology, which is definitely a mouthful.
What is that for people that might not know?
So it's the study of cultures and more indigenous cultures and communities around the world. And then from there, I also did a minor in Africana Studies because Cornell, which is where I went, had an amazing Africana Studies program and center.
Cool.
And then I did a concentration in Asian American Studies. So for me, it was like, let me learn about people and cultures and ethnicities and human behavior. And that was interesting. And I thought to myself, if I don't do it in college, I probably won't get the opportunity to learn it elsewhere. So I did just that, and always had the intent of going probably somewhere in the retail route. Grew up with that with my father. He was a small business owner. Had his own small retail shops. Had a jewelry business for a long time. So growing up.
So you had that in your background.
Yeah. So growing up, would hop in the van with him up to New York in the jewelry wholesale district.
Right.
So learned it very grassroots from him. So that's how I landed in retail.
Interesting. So what... Is there anything in particular in your studies that you really particularly enjoyed or you just wanted to get through?
I'm just fascinated by people and just different cultures and ethnicities and how that influences and shapes the way they think and act. And I think there's such a richness and different religions or just different foods because of your background. And so it's just always been interesting to me.
And
that's
cool.
To study it is really cool. And even when I talk to folks, I'm always intrigued to learn what are some of your family heritage things that you really value and love, and what are some of your favorite ethnic foods that you grew up eating. So
that's interesting. I didn't realize how inquisitive I was until I started the podcast, but I think a lot of it comes from being in sales. And now people are like, where do you get the ideas for coming up with these questions?
I always love asking the question, what do you eat when you go hiking? Like when you go on a hike, what do you pack for your lunch? And you get some really cool answers depending on
or what recipes
you grew up doing.
Right, exactly. That's cool. And you have a strong background with some major retailers. I bet we talked a little bit earlier, that's probably the experience that drew Backcountry to you and you to Backcountry.
For me, I was lucky enough after college to start at Bloomingdale's in their merchant training program, which is a really great foundation. And then, like I mentioned, several fashion retailers, so Saks Fifth Avenue, Ann Taylor, and then shifted over to the children's wear space. So then moved out to San Francisco to work at Gymboree, and then moved back to the East Coast of New York to work at the children's place. And so it's been really great, just number one, getting exposure to different industries and markets, but then also having different roles within those organizations. So again, when Backcountry was looking for a head of merchandising, I checked a lot of the boxes that they were looking for, and they happened to have hired a recruitment firm based out of New York. And so the network there, they keep tabs on the different leadership and within that metro area.
Did you like New York or San Francisco better? Any preference there?
Oh, both are great for their own reasons. When I left New York, I said to myself, I'm never coming back. And I went back and lived there for another 4 years. San Francisco I love because of the accessibility outside of San Francisco. Driving up to wine country, going down Highway 1. You can go 4 hours and get to Tahoe. And so I loved that area. I didn't necessarily love the city and living in the city as much as I did the accessibility of everything outside the city.
Yeah, New York's probably a better city to live in.
Yeah. New York was great because nothing beats the convenience of New York. If you're hungry at 2 a.m., you can find some delicious food to eat at 2 a.m. If you need transportation at whatever hour of the day, you're going to find it. And that convenience is just unparalleled.
That's true, That's true. And so how did you get connected with Jack Wolfskin?
Yeah, so I had left Backcountry, and at that point I was searching for a new role, and crazy enough, I was on like a family vacation, and an old colleague, so Russ Hopkins, he's the president of Prana, had texted me. He said, "Hey, look, I just got connected to the CEO of Callaway Golf. They just acquired Jack Wolfskin, and they're looking for talent, and I gave him your name. I told him you're on the market." And he sends me this text, and I kid you not, within 24 hours, Chip Brewer, the CEO of Callaway, is calling me.
Wow.
He's like, "Hey, I got your name from Russ. Do you have time to connect?" And I'm like, "Sure." So we have an hour-long conversation. We talk about what he's trying to do, build out a team for Jack Wolfskin North America, and within 2 weeks, I'm flying out there, and then a week later, I've got a job offer. And I'm like, whoa, what did I just sign up for? This is crazy. Yeah. It was probably the fastest interview process ever. It was great. Went in, spent the day, met with all the executives. And it was just such a unique opportunity to be able to launch it's had several attempts in the past, but launch a new brand in North America and get that experience and operate a quote-unquote startup, but within a larger infrastructure. I've always had this desire to try and do my own thing and have my own business, but I'm very risk-averse, so it's very daunting to think, am I going to really do that on my own with my own money and whatever, so to know that like I would have the backing of a company like Callaway and to learn how to do that was a pretty unique opportunity.
I didn't realize Callaway was that connected. So how does the relationship work between Callaway and the international group? Yeah,
so Callaway acquired the brand in 2019 globally.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got you.
And really it was a pretty smart move on their part. The intent largely, they're a golf business.
Yeah.
And,
I had Callaway clubs at one point.
Yeah, and so that's a very spring, summer heavy business. Right. And then you look at a business like Jack Wolfskin that is very much fall, winter.
Yeah.
And so when you think about seasonality and balancing the year-round business, like to me, it makes total sense. Plus, you think about the golf market, and a lot of golfers are outdoor enthusiasts, right? If they're golfing, they're usually a skier in the winter or some sort of other outdoor activity. So just to have that adjacency, I think there's a lot of synergy between the two. So they acquired the brand. And they've integrated the team into the Callaway operation in the sense that we've just implemented an ERP system for them. Wow. So there's a lot of benefit, right, because there's such a strong umbrella organization to help with tools, systems, investments, support. So it's been really
nice
great
for
to
you
see
because
that.
they're down in Southern California still, right? So they're close.
Yeah. So they're out in Carlsbad, and then there's other sister brands. So Travis Matthews part of the portfolio, Ogio is part of the portfolio, and then they recently did the Topgolf acquisition. Yeah. So it's pretty cool to see all these new brands and this family of brands just grow together. Yeah, when I worked at Eagle Creek, we were in Carlsbad, and Callaway was there, and TaylorMade was there, and one of the women that worked for me in customer service, her husband, I think it was, worked at TaylorMade, or one of them. Yep. So we got great deals on clubs. Oh, yeah. It was awesome. Yeah, well, I don't golf myself, but part of me is like, I should probably take it up just so I can take it this way. For the heck of it. It's pretty fun. Pretty simple, too, actually. And so in your 2 years? How many years now? It's been 2 years. 2 years? I'm just about to hit my 2-year anniversary. Which so what have been the biggest challenges? How much time do you have? Oh, well, I got plenty of batteries. We can go as long as you want. So I knew taking this role, it would be a challenge and that we were starting something from scratch. So even though... Maybe harder than from scratch because you had already had some... Like you say, fits and starts. Yeah, no, absolutely. So we did inherit a little bit of a messy kind of... It was a little bit of a mess. Other challenges, yeah. Of what we inherited. Just because, again, there were some false starts in the past with past ownership of Jack Wolfskin where they've attempted to get into North America. And as a result, burned some bridges, I would say. And so we've had to do some cleanup and some mending of relationship and rebuilding. Yeah. And rebuilding a lot of trust. So there was that component. And my team and I always knew it was going to be hard. Yeah. Just because, again, even though we were plugging into a really strong global team in Germany and a huge umbrella organization like Callaway, we were building the infrastructure. So when we came on board, it wasn't like tools were handed to us. Right. It was like, just plug and play. Apparel as a business is newer for Callaway, and so we were implementing an ERP system. We had to launch our own website. Wow. And those building blocks take time and a lot of energy. And so we knew that was always going to be a challenge, but that was the fun challenge. That's what we wanted to all do, and that's why we signed up for the job. But then to layer COVID on top of that, it's, whoa, now, Thank you very much. Yeah, we were going to be pushing up a boulder up a hill to start, but now we're pushing up 5 boulders up a hill. downhill. And COVID was definitely, it was unforeseen by all of us. We had no idea what
Big
was.
time curveball for everybody.
Total curveball. Yeah. And so that was definitely a challenge, just to have to pivot and readjust. And I went out and had a whole strategy and plan of what we were going to do. And then when COVID hit, it was like, whoa, screeching halt, let's readjust. And we hadn't filled all the roles I wanted, but at that point it was like, whoa, like we have no idea what's going to happen with the market. So let's not hire anyone and let's be cautious and let's crawl before we run here. And so that was definitely a challenge. I would say with that, when you're building a team from scratch and then all of a sudden you're forced to go into lockdown and you're trying to build culture and you're trying to build trust and camaraderie with your team, that just makes it 10 times harder. So
it does make it 10 times harder, but do you feel like your team has gotten even closer because you've all had to deal with that? I always tell people that there's nothing like getting a team of rafters or a team of outdoors together, like flipping the raft. All of a sudden they realize that we're all in this together.
Well, I think it's based on the individual, and I would say this team is phenomenal.
That's great.
And they all have their unique personalities. They all gel together, play off of each other really well. And so it's very complementary and very collaborative. And I think that's the only reason why we were able to survive COVID, right? And get through the pandemic, because they all had such a great attitude and just a willingness to just conquer this journey and just get through it and just figure it out despite whatever challenges came their way.
That's great.
And for that, I could not be more proud of this group. Like, they have been phenomenal.
I'll bet. That's awesome. Good for you. We're going to take a little break and give some love to our sponsor, Grammarly. If you write as much as I do, it's nice to have a little backup with spelling and grammar help, and I love Grammarly. Their instant grammar checker corrects all the grammar errors and enhances your writing. To get Grammarly's help with your writing, go to theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/grammarcheck and get signed up today. You can thank me later. That's theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/grammarcheck. Now, back to the show. What are some of the things that you did? You probably had to go to remote work.
We did remote work.
Yeah. Are you still remote a little bit? Or?
Yeah, what's been nice is I think a lot of organizations are realizing that with remote work, folks can be really productive, sometimes even more productive. And Callaway historically has been very much like in the office, but now has adopted more of a flexible working arrangement. And so that's what we have here too, which is great,
That's great.
Because not all my folks live in Park City, so they're commuting for the most part. And so to be able to work from home several days a week is a great balance.
That's great.
And so they're happy about that. I'm happy about that. They're productive. Things get done, and that's all I care about.
At the end of the day, exactly. That's all that matters. Yeah, that's awesome. What, other than COVID, anything else surprised you big time that you didn't see coming out of left field?
I took for granted how challenging it would be to plug in a smaller organization into a bigger entity like a Callaway. And so we're very blessed in that we have this huge organization and all these resources and tools. But sometimes having a small-scale business like this to plug into a super scaled system is almost counterproductive or hurts efficiency. And so it's been a huge learning for all of us on how do we adjust or pivot, or we actually don't have that role on the team, so who's going to take that on? We're all wearing a lot of hats. So that's been really eye-opening and a huge learning across the board.
Callaway embraced that? Have they?
Absolutely. Yeah. And for them, they've been trying to be super supportive to recognize, like, all right, where are the pain points? Like, where do we need to support additionally? Who do we need to send over?
We can send somebody up to. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that would be a big surprise for everybody, I would think. So you're also a board member and were the interim director at Camb.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that. That's a great organization. I love those guys.
It's a fantastic organization. And for those listening who have never heard of it, it's Camb Outdoors. They've been around for many years. Originally started as a networking group for women in the outdoor industry, just because
Diana Buck was on the show one of the early episodes.
Yeah, she was the old executive director, and went from a women's networking group and then evolved to be a 501c3 nonprofit around equity for gender within the outdoor industry, and then has since evolved even further to more diversity, equity, inclusion in the workplace in general. So really great mission, really great vision, an amazing staff. I was privileged enough to have the opportunity to step in when Deanne stepped down and serve as that interim executive director. At that point, I had been serving on the board. I think it was my second year in, and just happened to leave Backcountry, so was available to step into that role. And it was a humbling experience. I have to give a lot of credit to folks who do DEI work day in, day out professionally, because it's very it's difficult work. And so those who do it and commit themselves to it, I commend them because it's much needed work, especially in the workplace, because we have our system is so broken. So for me, it was a humbling experience, and I learned so much within the 8 months that I was in that role, just around the topics. And it was always something I've always thought about, and I've recognized, especially in the outdoor industry and being a female leader and a person of color. But to be in the forefront of it and be pushing it and working with corporate partners within the industry to really build their strategies and an intent around it was a very meaningful time period.
Yeah, and great, almost the perfect opportunity to step in and not only get experience to do the work, but learn, get immersed in it.
It's, really opened my eyes to just...
I can imagine.
The value in the workplace. And I came from fashion where you see a lot of women, especially in New York City, you see a lot of diversity. So you take that, almost for granted. And then you come to the outdoor space and
come to Utah.
You come to Utah and you recognize, wow, there's so much opportunity to evolve as organizations, and there's so much value and impact to the business that comes when you have a more diverse workforce and just more diversity of thought and thought leadership. So that's
good.
Yeah, it's definitely changed the way I think about my leadership.
And do you have any plans to participate in? Are you a board member?
I'm still a board member. Yeah,
Okay.
I think I'm in year 4.
Okay.
So I'm in my second term.
Yeah, that's, good for you. Yeah. Any other boards you're looking to join? Or?
At this point, I am pretty busy with this job. I have to say, I wish I was devoting even more time to Camber than I already do. I feel like I don't do nearly enough for that group, and especially for something I'm so passionate about. So yes, down the road, absolutely. I would love to entertain different board opportunities if they're the right fit.
I always ask that because it seems like there's a lot of outdoor folks that seem to be serial board members. They're on the board of a lot of things, which is totally fine, but it's interesting. I don't know if it's unique to the outdoor industry, but
I've enjoyed my experience as a board member and would definitely love to gain additional experience on different.
I was on the board for the California Wilderness Coalition for a couple of years.
Nice.
That was super fun. Yeah. It's a totally different animal, that's for sure. Let's shift gears a little bit. What outdoor activities do you participate in these days?
Oh, well,
when you have free time and don't work all the time.
Moving and living in Utah has definitely opened my eyes to a lot more than I grew up doing. Growing up, it was mainly like hiking, do some like fishing type stuff, but nothing crazy. Skied a little bit as a child. So coming to Utah as an adult, I've gone back into skiing.
Cool.
Which has been a lot of fun. So that's my winter sport of choice. I also own a pair of snowshoes, which I never thought I would. So that's a fun activity for me. And then in the summer, you usually find me hiking. I attempted one year to try mountain biking and had a horrible accident.
Oh, you did? Oh,
yeah.
bummer.
So I've since said no to the mountain biking and now have an e-bike. So
I'm
sticking to the pavement.
Hey, that's smart. At least your limits. That's half the battle there. Do you have any suggestions or advice for folks wanting to get into the outdoor?
Network. Get to know folks. I think more than ever, there's a greater appetite in the outdoor industry to bring in folks who are not from the industry. I think companies are recognizing the value of having folks that come from other industries with that different experience, and they just come with different ideas and different ways to challenge the business, and that's extremely valuable, right? Because the outdoor industry has plateaued a bit, and there's a lot of opportunity to continue that growth and think about what other audiences. And
feels like it's grown up a lot, but it hasn't gotten very sophisticated.
Yes, it still
like I'm sure that some of the buying stuff that you come from is way more sophisticated than what you found when you got here.
Yeah, I think outdoors catching up a little bit on that front, for sure. On the buying and the planning, I think fashion retail is far more ahead in those areas. So yes, I would say for anyone looking to get into the industry, just network and talk to people and recognize that there's an opportunity, or they're looking for folks to come in and take those opportunities, and to not to shy away. I think oftentimes, especially for women, they look at a job description and when it says must have outdoor experience, they're like, oh, I don't have that, so I'm not even going to apply. And actually, that was one of the things we took off the job description at Backcountry.
Oh, interesting.
And right off the bat, saw a tremendous amount more female candidates applying. So just in general, I'd say don't be afraid to apply. Don't be afraid to get rejected here and there, because that's just how the job searching process goes. But eventually, if you find the right fit, it could be a really great career.
Cool. That's great advice. And here's one you mentioned before we hit the record button. What's your favorite piece of outdoor gear under $100?
Oh gosh, so much gear is over $100.
I know,
right?
That's why I ask it.
Yeah. And so this one might be cheating, because I think it might have actually been over $100, maybe under $100 with like my backcountry discount at the time. But I have to say, I'm so thankful that I when I had that mountain biking accident that I was wearing a helmet.
Oh, yeah.
And I still have my Smith helmet. It is crushed in the top. It's got blood all over it. And I just saved it. I don't even know why, because it's just...
Good.
But thank goodness for that, because it totally saved my life.
Yeah, I'll bet. Yeah.
And I am a true believer of helmets while riding your bike, while on the ski slopes. And so, I could not do a lot of the activities that I enjoy doing today.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I grew up as an outdoor guy. I wore a helmet years ago when I was mountain biking, but I never wore a helmet skiing until probably the last 3 or 4 years that I skied, just because it got so crowded. And
when I was a kid, I didn't wear a helmet. That didn't exist.
Didn't happen. Right? Yeah, nobody wore helmets. Right. We didn't wear helmets when we were biking when we were kids. Yeah.
I should just wear a helmet every day. I'm so accident prone. I should just be wearing one now.
Is there anything else you'd like to ask or say of our listeners before we?
No, I have to say 5 years in the outdoor industry, it's been amazing. Cool. I think the folks in the industry, what I love the most is just there's this common thread of just passion and appreciation for outdoor activities, nature, wellness, health, and I think that's just so nice. It's so balanced, and I've really just appreciated folks being so open-minded to introducing folks that aren't as immersed in the outdoor space like myself, and welcoming me into the industry and into those activities, and showing me how fun they can be. Because without a lot of those friends and those colleagues, I wouldn't have had that exposure. Yeah. So I'm so appreciative of that, and that just speaks volumes of just the industry that we're in.
It's a great community.
It's such a great community.
Yeah, that's right. And if people want to follow up with you, where's the best place to reach you?
I'm not very active on social media.
Right.
I would say my biggest social media outlet is really more of a LinkedIn.
Okay. A lot of people are, yeah.
And so that's probably the place I'm most active. So, you can find me there.
We'll put your LinkedIn link on there, and they can follow up there. Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you this afternoon. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, and thank you.
I'll see you again at one of the shows.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Outdoor Biz Podcast. Be sure to visit our website, theoutdoorbizpodcast.com, where you'll find show notes with links to everything we talked about and more. Subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts so you'll never miss an episode. And while you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes. Or spread the word and tell a friend about the show. That would really help us out too. Be sure to tune in every week. And thanks again for listening to the Outdoor Biz Podcast with Rick Saez.